Hello folks, William here. Today I have a very special video, so special I've decided to break it into two parts. I'm a huge fan of the British-Canadian co-production Ace Lightning, originally aired in 2002. I'm working on a review of this franchise on my channel, in fact a series of reviews. I look to get the first review out by September this year. I don't mean to get too ahead of myself, but currently that review is in the works and that's my planned release date. But right here, right now, however, I'm interviewing one of the cast members from Ace Lightning, Brandon Carrera. I contacted Brandon about his experiences working on Ace Lightning, which I know and remember him from most fondly as a character actor, playing the recurring role of Brett Ramirez.
Brett. What's up? I'm Brett.
But I was also able to ask him over Zoom meetings about his career as a whole. From being in films alongside actors like Sylvester Stallone, Anthony Quinn, Mark Wahlberg, and William Hurt, to name but a few. So pretty exciting stuff. Because our interview is so jam-packed with great stories from both of us, I've decided to make this video a two-parter, as it amounts roughly to 3 hours in length, so breaking it in half is a choice I feel comfortable making to aid in the consumption of the content.
I'm breaking it in half.
This was a chance to say as a fan how important Ace Lightning was to me, as well as for Brandon to tell first-hand stories about the show, from a series of set questions I came up with, which I plan to use in my reviews wherever I can. You will hear from me once in a blue moon during these videos when I talk to camera this way, as there are some glitches in our Zoom meetings that I've sometimes corrected using subtitles, but other times I'm better just as a talking head to you folks, giving context to what's happening in case footage was either lost or perhaps had an audio issue. But without further ado, let's talk to Brandon Carrera today. So, hi, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? I'm really loving the shirt.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's lightning in a bottle.
I know.
It's lightning in a bottle.
I love it. I love it. You got some really cool memorabilia behind you, man. What do you got on the shelf up there? Let me see that.
So what? I'll lean down so I can show you. But I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters. And I discovered that Dan Aykroyd has, Crystal Head vodka or Crystal Skull vodka. So I've got like a few of those just here. I say a few.
Very cool. Oh, just a few, right? That looks like a good time right there.
Yeah. That's that took a long time to get through, of course. But no, it's good. It's good stuff.
Party at your house next time I'm in Scotland for sure. No, Dan Aykroyd, man. The original. Have you had a chance to watch some of like the remakes, some of the newer versions of Ghostbusters and things like that?
Yeah. So saw Ghostbusters 2016 and then Ghostbusters Afterlife, which it's interesting because it's Ghostbusters Afterlife. It wasn't Ivan Reitman, at least not directing. It's Jason, his son, Jason Reitman, making that movie. And no, I was excited for that because I think he's very close. Like he grew up on his father's set making that movie and others. No, he's a great movie director in his own right. Like I really like Juno, his movie. I like that, and it's the most popular thing he's done. But he's great. No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did his father proud in that film. I really love the homage that he sort of took it back rather than creating something complete. I mean, he did it in his own style. It's definitely a completely different movie, but paying homage to the originals, which is something that I'm a huge fan of. I've always disliked it when directors try to make, I understand they want to make their own mark and I understand that they want to do their own thing. But when you're bringing back something so iconic as Ghostbusters or bringing back some of those characters or some of the storylines, you really do have to, you have to respect the fact that the fans like us, we're expecting to see something that pays homage to that original film or pay respect to that sort of style at least. And that was my biggest takeaway from that film. The fact that I felt like a little kid again, watching. I was just waiting for the Pillsbury Doughboy the Marshmallow Puffman to walk through the screen again because I felt. Anyways, it was I really love it. It was cool.
Yeah, there was a good clip. Yeah, there was a good clip they put out with Paul Rudd, in the Walmart or whatever it was with the mini puffs and
with the mini puffs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, that we'll get to. Of course, I'm interviewing you today about Ace Lightning, which is a show that I really love, and it's just a experience to speak to one of the the cast members of the show. It's great.
I was super stoked about this, and something, and so here's the thing: you do something 20 plus years ago, And we were all kids, and some of us aren't even in the film industry anymore. Some of us are actually, funny enough that this is coming up now, that are actually just kind of getting back into the film industry. Life sort of, takes different roads, takes you in different directions. You go with it, see what works, see what doesn't. But having someone reach out who you just never know what you do, how it might touch someone so long later, or kind of a reaction it might have. And it's interesting to see people respond so well to something, feeling like it's a part of, its own sort of cult classic, its own sort of like genre, its own sort of kind of, and actually be a fan of it, or actually someone who enjoyed it. Because as a kid, we didn't have those sort of reactions. It's not like we were getting a bunch of, we would get like little pieces of fan mail here and there, but it was a show that ran, we were all a bunch of kids, and then it sort of disappeared. Nobody ever really heard anything about it again. So I was super stoked to be able to do this, to meet someone who, you've obviously watched all the seasons, you've watched all the episodes. Especially judging by the questions that you have kind of prepared, specifically about certain episodes, and so I was really stoked to do this interview and meet you and get your perspective, like kind of what the show did for you too, and what you enjoyed about it most. So I was really looking forward to this for sure.
No, that's really wonderful of you to say. Yeah, it's interesting because specifically with these questions, because I was thinking, because so far I've reached out to a few different people on the show. I spoke to Brett Hurd, actually, who played Rick, the master program in season 2, is like the second biggest bad, or even the biggest bad in that one. And I think because of Brett's a really lovely man. It was nice to hear from him. It was really wonderful. But at the same time, I don't know if Brett's acting as much anymore. He's directing now, and he produces. But I think what you say, because it was 20 years ago, in a way, it's such a long time ago. And I think he wondered like how interesting his stories might be, or how well he could actually recall it. Because in Canada, I was talking to Matt Ficner about this a while ago now, but I think in Canada it played once on the TV, and similar to the UK, which is where I'm from, sometimes it can leave a lasting impact, and you seek it out, you can find it, particularly with the internet now. But other times the TV is how you discover things, and it's there then not there. So it's tricky.
Yeah, so some of my friends, I was actually telling them I was going into this interview, and they even said, "Can you even find it anymore?" And I said, "Well, with the internet, we can find anything." But you're absolutely right. Back then it was either, a kid was sitting down and watched it when it came on, or they didn't know about it. So it was super popular in some networks, and just not popular at all. Like some, and it's, especially here in Canada, you either saw it or you didn't. There weren't huge marketing stints. It wasn't all over the place. It's not like nowadays too, where it would be plastered all over Facebook. So to see it kind of making an impact on anyone is super humbling, and really nice to hear.
Yeah, I think what it is, because of YouTube now, all the episodes are on YouTube in 2 different forms now. Actually, I'll do a little shout out to Joseph Marshall right now, who is someone that the producer of the show, Rick Siggelkow. Who I apologize, Rick. I've been saying your name incorrectly for years and years, because if you don't know how to pronounce that name, it's tricky. I'm sorry, Rick. I've called you Siggelkow for so many years. I apologize. But you mustn't pronounce the W. But no, what Joseph had done was take some VHS tapes that Rick had in his own library of the show, and transfer them onto YouTube, and it's like the best version of it that we've ever seen now, and which is good for season 2, because for season 1 it had a full DVD release, which I have that over here actually. I have some.
So cool. Let me see that.
No, this is out of print to my dismay, but no, this DVD is from Hong Kong actually.
No way. Look at that. Love it.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a version of it that's in English, and then English and Chinese, and other stuff like that. But the thing is, because season 1 was like fully released on DVD, but nothing for season 2, and so what people had of season 2 was like VHS off the TV, so it wasn't like the best quality. And you can find like better quality versions of it, but it's not in English. Like there's one I found in Russian, and I thought, this is a shame it's not in the language it was originally in.
Это мой научный проект.
Научный проект?
Да, это сверхпроводник.
But I'm like, ooh, this, like the quality is great on all these things here. But I'm gonna see if I can find, because there's some photos in here. But we've got Tom, Tom Wanzi, who played.
Yeah, there he is, Mark. Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And,
love it.
Yeah, you're here. Your character Brett is in here, just in the corner where my thumb is there. But
Yep, I've got that print too. Love it.
Nice. But Brandon, did you say, because I have a few Ace Lightning goodies I can show you in the video today, but did you say you had something from the show? Or
I do. And it's not available to show you on camera, but when this is over, I have 3 original first draft scripts from a few of the episodes. And what I'd like to do is I have a few people that I keep in touch with. We're all going to sign it, and then I'm going to have it shipped out to you. So I'll get your address and all that. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with you. So I've always made it a point. Any project I've worked on, obviously there's various drafts that are released, different colors, things like that represent, which version, how many drafts that have been printed. And I actually have every single script that I've ever, from any project I've worked on. The plan was, they've always been sitting around and sitting in a bin. And the plan was always to sort of plaque them up, put them on the wall and enjoy them. And, for people to go over and see. And they've never actually gotten any use. They've just been sitting collecting dust. So when you reached out, I said, man, I know exactly what I'm going to do with these ones. So I'm really excited to share that with you, and I'll send that over to you. As soon as I can see who else. If not, you'll at least get my signature on that. But I'd love to be able to send that over to you, and I'll send you over some other cool stuff that I've got.
No, that's the greatest thing. Thank you. No, I have some other things that I'll bring in accordingly.
Sure.
Yeah. No, it's just wonderful doing this interview, trying to keep my train of thought. But what I'll say, we'll get to the first question, the first little question there. But we were talking before about Ghostbusters, and I was on Twitter a little while ago, and I found it was a tweet from Mark Minardi, who of course played Chuck on the show, where he was talking about that. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. We've got, because it's my favorite movie, the original movie, or it's the movie I've seen the most, that and Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
Oh and my God, Gremlins. That's my childhood favorite right there.
Yeah. I love the second one too, but the first one's so great, and because I thought, what would my favorite movie be? And I think it's that one, because I've seen it so many times. But no, it's just weird, there's these little connections there.
The synchronicity. Mark, yeah. So he's one of the few people in the world that I actually regret not staying in touch with. He changed and grew so much throughout his years, from teens into an adult, and he's turned into a really incredible human being. So I feel privileged to have been able to know these people when we were all in our youth, and I definitely walked away with some really great memories. But he's definitely someone that I regret not keeping in touch with.
It's such his life, because he's obviously because he changed quite a bit, from season 1 to 2, and now he's he's a really jacked man now. He's
he is. He is, isn't he? Yeah. Looks like a bodybuilder, man. Yeah.
I was saying to Matt Ficner in the nicest possible way. I was like, yeah, he could kick our ass. He just, I'm sure he's no. I'm sure
he's the sweetest. He's the sweetest guy though. Yeah. No, he definitely looks like a bodybuilder, man. He really stepped it up, and I think probably part of that was just wanting to enter different roles, and I think that's probably one of the hardest things that an actor can do is make that choice and make those changes. And he did it. He should be super proud of himself. Yeah. And Matt Ficner is another gentleman who had the privilege of seeing on set, working with his designs. I mean, I don't know if you've kept up with what he's doing nowadays. He's this creative genius that I feel he's undervalued. I feel like he should, I should be hearing so much more about him. But following him on Facebook is definitely is a lot of fun, and seeing kind of the characters that his mind comes up with and things like that. I heard that you actually have some, I think you might even have memorabilia that I've never even seen or even had, but I heard that you even have some of the some of the toys, some of the releases of his characters. That.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, he did a little shout out to me because that I contacted Matt last year, asking him about his experiences on the show because it's one of my favorite shows, and he's a big inspiration to me as a creative person. Like I went to art school because I think because of him. When I was a kid, it sparks that thing, or at least his character. His characters from Ace are. It's my favorite thing he's done, but even before that, he worked on Noddy, which was like the British kind of American or Canadian like co-production version of that. And he's worked on stuff ever since, like his web series, and he's got a show that he's doing now. Yeah, eagerly anticipating Fernsby's Cryptid Critter Control.
Oh man, that looks like it's going to be really cool, man. I've seen kind of some shots of some stuff that he's posted, and the characters just look really fun. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Yeah.
But I'll show you some of the stuff because I was asking Matt if the merchandise was sold in Canada, because in the UK we did have some stuff. We'll get to the action figures in 1 second, but obviously there's that DVD set that is from overseas. But I have the DVD. This is another thing about I'll say this. I've got this here. This is the first 7 episodes of the show on DVD, and then I forgot to get my VHS tapes that I have of this, but. In fact, I'll dig that out right now. But that one's from the UK, and it's just sort of it speaks to a little bit of the obscurity of the show because only so much of it you could buy on physical media. But then got the annual from 2003, which is 20 years here. Yeah,
love that.
Yeah. I was checking this one out because this one, has a poster in the back of Ace and Lord Fear. So
I've never seen that. That's something we never. Yeah, let me take a closer look at that. You definitely got to open that up for me.
I need to show you the cover. I need to show you the cover more. But no, it's fun that you can find like this because it's got a poster in the back.
Oh, that's fun, man. That's super. Yeah, I like that. Very cool. Mm-hmm.
No, it's got that charm. Sorry, I'm rattling through this fast, but I'll give you a proper look at these things, or like I'll show freeze frames in the video. But
sure.
We've got that here.
Love it. Yeah. I love the pose too, man. That's iconic right there. That's exciting right there.
Super pose.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll tell you what, the VHS of the first 3 episodes, it's the same cover as that, except it's blue. And the one, I'll find it for you. This one is important to me just as like a memory of the past. Yeah, my personal copy of episodes 4 to 7. It's beat up real bad on the top.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, on VHS.
Yeah.
With Lord Fear on the cover. That's actually really cool. That's a cool graphic too. I actually really like that one. Yeah.
I think this cover, it kind of fed into my, because I love the heroes in Ace Lightning, like Ace and Random Virus and Sparks, but I do also love the bad guys so well, just in terms of the design.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Matt Ficner did an incredible job bringing a likability to those characters, and just something that was like, they're just really cool to look at. They're not, and I think that was him wanting to make sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a kids show. We don't want to scare anybody off. It can't be too villainous, and obviously there has to be a hero and a villain, and it was very clear who it was. But I think Lord Fear was super cool, man.
Yeah, apparently I'll need to ask Matt more about this, but this is a character I think he dreamt up long before the show was
really?
made, and I think it came. Yeah, apparently so. And I think the idea of this face, like this elongated face, for Lord Fear, it kind of came to Matt in a bit of a nightmare that he'd had, and you can kind of see why,
Yeah.
And man. I do to ask. I'll maybe ask either Matt or somebody, see if I can know, because there's a scene in the first episode where Fear, like his head reaches down upside down in Mark's window, and Mark screams and backs off because he's freaky. And I thought to myself, was that the nightmare? Could that have been the nightmare? And Matt's like, put that in, that in. That's in my head from this guy.
I don't know if I'd sleep ever again if that was my nightmare. So that's
it's kind of, because I was talking to Matt about like Lord of the Rings, for like CGI characters. with live action. And I wonder if that face was, the design was maybe solidified after Fellowship of the Ring, with Sauron, that kind of knight, kind of long helmet that he's got.
Never thought of that, man, but I could definitely see, the relation for sure.
I don't know. It's just my kind of a theory, but yeah. Yeah, I wonder if, because yeah, it's difficult to see, but inside the case we've got like ads for other, piece of merchandise there, like the actual video game that was made retrospectively ago, and some of the other bits just here. But yeah.
I wish I had a chance to kind of, even some of the memorabilia and stuff that we came across here, or that I even have, would be, first few episodes of this, first season on VHS, maybe a few photos. Everything else that I was able to take away from the show is personal memorabilia, like photos of us being, BTS shots behind the scenes and things like that. So this is super fun to be able to see all this.
No, thank you. No, it's wonderful, to share it with you, because when I heard that it didn't exist overseas, I thought, it doesn't. Oh, because this stuff and the show itself is just really important to me. But yeah, I found you again. I found a photo there with the group shot.
Oh, look at that one. I remember taking that photo. Let me take a closer look at that. Yeah.
I'll get my fingers.
Too cool, man. I love it. Great.
Yeah. This sorry. No, this again, my own personal copy. I must have been curious about the film on the back, because I started to peel away that purple. So it's a bit of a light purple.
No, man, it still looks good. Look at him. Mark, Shadia. You got Shadia there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were so young.
Yeah.
It's incredible too, because at that age, you have quite a bit of responsibility being on set. And I remember thinking at that age, I remember feeling not like I was, 12, 13, 14. I remember thinking, oh man, I'm an adult. I have all this responsibility, I'm on a TV show. And you look back and I realize, man, that kid didn't know what was going on. But definitely, I think it's really cool to be able to look back and really appreciate it now as an adult, because I still have all these memories from set, like it happened yesterday. So being able to actually think about it as an adult and actually understand what it was and appreciate what I was doing, I think it holds way more value now than I think it did back then, for sure.
Oh, yeah, I want to say that, talking of behind the scenes photos, there is one in the annual that I can show you with Mark, and you can see the camera in the background, but we'll come to that. I want to say this is sort of like a Charlie's Angels kind of a pose, or Charlie sort of, the gun.
It is, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's probably what the photographer was telling them to go for too.
Yeah,
but it works. It looks really cool. These kids look pretty badass.
Yeah. Well, those movies, the newer ones with Drew Barrymore, I say newer, from the time they were coming out at that time. So I don't know if you guys were watching that, or if it's something the photographer knew. It's like, do this, do that.
Maybe referencing some of the originals even before, like the original Charlie's Angels. But yeah, it definitely works, man.
Yeah. I want to say, because I've got a couple more things. I've got the action figures in the corner here. I'll just reach out to you.
Yeah, let me see those.
I want to say it's a shame in a way, because some of the cast members are the voiceover cast. Even some of the the actors that were physically there aren't with us anymore, sadly. Some of the older dudes, I think, for example, I have Anvil. Here we are. This is great.
Yeah.
So we got,
oh man, that is a cool action figure, man. I wish I could have seen. That's
Well, I know, because no, I know
that's in good condition too.
Yeah. I found one that's actually missing his anvil hand, like on eBay, which is where these other things. I have 4 off camera. I'll get those here, but one of them was missing its hand, and what you can press a button. There you go.
Boom. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Get it back. Because gets the job done. Just whoa.
Too cool.
No, yeah, the iconic garbage can lid, and yeah, apparently this Matt calls it his Kermit the Frog collar. That green thing he has there.
Does he? I could see
He,
why. Oh man.
yeah, no, it's so great. But no, I was hoping actually to talk to Howard Jerome, who
Hmm.
voiced
Anvil.
and
Yeah.
Howard is no longer with us, sadly. But and I wish I wish I'd kind of reached out. I don't want to say quicker because I think he was unwell for
Hmm.
a little while, unfortunately. But no, it's some great because there were some talented people on the show, like Cal Dodd, who's obviously done so many things.
Hmm. One of the names for, I mean, not a voiceover actor. He had a little bit of a bigger role, but Mr. R.D. Reid,
Yeah.
who is no longer with us either. A Canadian icon for sure.
Hmm.
Um, that yeah, it's things, again, being older now, having a different appreciation for life, understanding how fragile things are. And when you reached out and thinking about the show again, it really put it into perspective and made me realize, hey, I actually had the opportunity, whether I worked alongside with them or not, to be on a show with some of these greats who, sadly are no longer with us, but I still hold that experience. And yeah, I mean, Artie Reed would definitely be one of the ones that stand out in my mind as far as someone who's no longer with us. And really, it's a big loss, I think, just to the world in general, and the world of film and Canadian television for sure. Um, I remember working on set with him. He was just always so professional, but so damn funny, constantly. He couldn't help it, even if he wasn't trying to be.
You are fearless. You are the dream man to chase away the nightmare.
His character acting was definitely something award-winning worthy for sure. I mean, did Artie Reed have the opportunity to be recognized for any of those roles in awards? I don't know. I've never really followed through or followed up with anyone's career.
It's kind of. I was going to ask you about this because with R.D. Reed, but also Philip Williams, who played
Mm.
Duff, Kent in the
Mhm.
show.
Mhm.
I'll get Anvil back home. I was watching, of all things, I was watching Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, and
Mhm.
R.D. is, of course, in that in a small role. I'm like, it's
Very.
Mr. Cheseborough, because to me, that's who he is to me. But then
Yeah.
again, I say that because this show is my jam. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a second to collect myself, okay?
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I thought that is him, and it's a testament to a great actor because he played this tyrannical like teacher type.
Hollander, come back here, you little cretin!
And rewatching the show, he's a national treasure. Like all these like character actors, the older cast members are just real national treasures. They're so fun.
It's
And
really,
with
really
Philip
great to
Williams,
hear.
thank you. No worries. With Philip Williams, he was also in one of the Friday the 13th movies, Jason X. He shows up in that briefly. I think Jason offs him tragically because I'm like, oh.
Whoa! Oh, shit.
But
Pretty quickly
again,
too.
I was watching like it's Duff Kent. It's Duff Kent. Everybody stop for Duff Kent.
Can a guy get some shut-eye around here?
What the hell? We're family friendly now. Remember?
You're you're watching these people tragically dying. You're thinking about the children's show. It's really funny, actually.
Yeah, it's
But
bizarre.
no, but that's mhm.
Yeah. It's bizarre seeing them in children's media, but then also in like these, horror movies. And are you a horror movie guy, Brandon, or like not particularly?
Come Halloween time, I have my
Mhm.
sort of cult classics and favorites that I turn to, but it's literally one time of the year. And Friday the 13th is my go-to sort of. That's where I live, man. Those still scare the shit out of me, even as a grown man. But I really, around thinking about horror films and thinking about what I watch at Halloween. I've always been more for like the fun, scary movies. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, the ones that have that hint of fear in them, but they keep it lighthearted. Like Ghostbusters is definitely the top.
Uh-huh.
The top. and going back to like just Gremlins, like, you know, that stuff was, if you think about it as a kid, was kind of scary, but it's not, you know, it's still fun.
Yeah, no,
But,
it's entertaining. Yeah.
I miss the days when horror films weren't about all blood and gore, you know. Nowadays I feel like it's more about the shock value, you know, and nobody would expect this, and you know, how many heads can I blow off, and how graphic can I make the brain splattering on the back of the wall.
Yeah.
And when you have films that sort of hold the suspense more, you don't really know what's going to happen. Those to me are always the most terrifying. Perfect example would be like The Shining. I still, to me, I find The Shining is the most terrifying horror film on the face of this earth till this day. And again, it wasn't always about the shock value. You didn't know what was going to happen. The next thing you know, those two, you know, scene in the washroom or in the hallway with the two, you know, bloody girls. And stuff. I mean, or the, you know, him just slowly losing his mind. Just to me, that film, that's true horror classic for me. Since there's nothing like that anymore, I don't really follow the genre too much.
Oh no, it's cool. But no, thinking about there's two things there. One is that it talking about like this horror spectacle. I think the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I enjoy that franchise a lot, but I think there was sort of out with the filmmaking, there was kind of a bet on part of each director coming in. Like it was like, let's just outdo all the crazy nightmare set pieces. And I love all of that, but yeah, it sort of suffers by the time you get to the fourth movie, maybe the fifth or sixth one, and it's like there's no plot; it's just stuff happening, and it's this person introduced, and that this stuff happens. I don't mind that because the movie's not trying to do too much else, and Robert Englund is really, you know, really charming as Freddy, and he does his thing. So it's got enough of that like basic charm to it that, you know, this is fun. It's ridiculous, but it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, and I was on YouTube, I was making a video, and I went off on a tangent for a second talking about The Shining. I was like, as much as people like The Shining, I've heard there are some people who don't find that movie scary. And it's like, you kidding me? I disagree. You know, I think we're both terrified by scenes in that film.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I have a group of friends, and some are, I literally have these two groups. Some are analytical, some are very creative. I think it just depends. Obviously, every movie, it depends on the person watching it. Some people find movies good. Others, you know, the same people might find what their friends, you know, vice versa. But with The Shining, you do have to have already a built-in sense of imagination and creativity, and put yourself in those situations or those shoes in the moment in the film. And I feel like if you just don't, then you're not going to appreciate exactly what's going on. You're not really going to be scared or feel scared. And for me, especially, you know, why I wanted to be an actor, I loved that film from since I was a little kid. I was sitting in front of television. I wasn't watching these. I was literally projecting myself and pretending I was these characters and imagining, actually experiencing what these characters were experiencing. And that's where the fun came from. That's where the thrill came from. That's why I loved watching those movies so much. Not being able to go to sleep because I actually believed that, you know, Freddy was going to come to me in my dreams. Like that shit, that's what gets your heart going. So to me, I agree with you 100%. Shining to me is still the scariest movie on the face of this earth. And I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, because I was watching it. I thought, no, this completely holds up in every way. There's no question. And but
plus
Brandon,
Jack Nicholson. Come on, man. I mean, that guy is.
Oh, sure. One of the greats. You know, just that performance. Yeah. Oh dear. But we've kind of we've sort of touched on the questions, but like specifically, what was your experience like working on Ace Lightning?
So Ace Lightning was the first recurring role, you know, coming in as Brett on a television series, you know, that lasted more than the pilot. And it was off of the heels of, you know, working with Sylvester Stallone on Avenging Angelo, and some other minor roles and stuff that had come up. So to me, it was first being able to land the role was super exciting. Being in the Canadian market at the time as well, I was also auditioning for Degrassi. And I remember Degrassi and The Next Generation and Ace Lightning were, first season were set to like film around the same time. I feel super honored to have been able to be a part of Ace Lightning at the time. Again, I wouldn't have actually been able to understand it or appreciate it, especially when you're that young. Looking back, it offered some life experiences that were altering in profound ways that, you know, just can't express, and definitely set the tone for the rest of my teenage years. and into adulthood. Some were really good. Some were actually pretty negative, pretty bad. Not because of the show. It's not because of the show itself, but just the life experiences that it sort of led to. I also know, I remember feeling at times like I actually felt, oh man, this is going to be my big break. This is going to lead to bigger, better things. And later on, when you're a teenager and it doesn't lead to bigger, better things, it's pretty disappointing. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Ace Lightning and being on that set, that was like the first show of its kind at that time that introduced, live action and CGI together. And that in itself, no one can ever take away. I mean, that, whether I have scenes that interact with CGI or not, I was still a part of this show that set a trend and created this genre of TV shows and all these other shows that were to follow. And that to me is the coolest experience and takeaway that I have from working on Ace Lightning. And my second one would now be this, being able to, have to meet someone who's actually who's a fan and actually want to dive deeper and understand the show a bit. So.
Aw. Before I forget, I've got from the Ace Lightning guidebook just here, which I showed you that photo, like that group photo a little minute ago. But talking Philip Williams and scary stuff, this photo here always kind of creeped me out just here when I was younger. So we've got Duff there in that clown makeup.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, with Mr. Huckleberry.
So clowns are always scary, but that's something else, man. It's the blue, it's the top hat that does it for me, man. That's
It's also kind of Lord Fear, but it's more circusy,
Yeah, I like the graphics in that. I mean, that's a super cool piece of memorabilia right there. I like that. Let me see that, man. Too cool. I love it.
Well, a lot of this stuff is accessible on eBay, so no, I'll need to send this your way.
Well, you'll be in Canada, this neck of the woods, man. See if I can make some time and come out and see you.
You stay in Vancouver, Brandon, or?
Yeah, I moved out to Vancouver 3 years ago now. It didn't actually have anything to do with the film industry. It had everything to do with the weather. When you start heading into, so I was born and raised in Ontario, in Toronto, and, winters are always long, cold, dark, no fun. The city gets really busy too, hustle and bustle. You're always dealing with slush and things like that. And, it's not that we don't get, even right now, I'm looking out the window and, we've got quite a bit of snow, but it doesn't last, doesn't stay. Vancouver on the West Coast also has a very different feel about, your lifestyle. Mental health means a lot as far as staying active, taking care of yourself, being outdoors, more nature. It's a lot less of that city hustle and bustle, concrete jungle kind of lifestyle. So it really suited my needs 3 years ago when we came out here, and I'm loving it ever since.
Yeah, of all people, Tom Green, who's from Ottawa originally, mentioned, he's like, if you're going to come to Canada, come to Ottawa, come in the summer, don't come in the winter.
Probably a really good piece of advice. Right now, they're dealing with incredible snowfall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about where you're from? What's snowfall like? What kind of precipitation do you guys get?
It can be quite wet, but I think just with like global warming or whatever the past years, it's not as snowy as it used to be when I was a child. But I think it's snowier in Canada than Scotland or just the UK, from what I understand. But it's also like it's wetter here. It melts quite easily, and then it can freeze back over into ice. So the snow is fine. It's just the ice is a real nightmare.
I have a very clear memory of slipping on ice in the middle of April in Toronto, and I fractured a rib. And I remember thinking from that day, I'm like, man, wherever I end up, I want to end up where I never have to slip on ice in April again. Give me snow and ice for January, February, and then let it go away, man. I don't want to see it ever again.
Yeah, for some reason, it gets snowier in Scotland in February than it does in December. And then from like late March onward, it's like warmer, and then you notice the days get short at the end of September, but like you don't really notice it until like mid to late October, like, oh, it's darker earlier, and then it's just snow and
Yeah,
I love it here, but yeah, this is the cycle of what happens.
Oh, you're gonna love Ottawa when you visit. If you ever get a chance, definitely you wanna even, you're not too far from Montreal. I don't know if you've heard a lot about Montreal or if you know what's out there, but a lot of history, a really beautiful sort of European city that's, in Canada. And, if you go to Montreal, visit Old Town Montreal for sure. You'll love it.
No, I'd seen some photos, not of Montreal, but of Ottawa, just looking at the canals. I'm like, yeah, this kind of looks like Europe. This looks like Paris a little bit, which I've
It
been
does.
to briefly. Yeah. You ever been to Paris, Brandon?
Oh man, I wish. Not yet. When it comes to Europe, I've spent a lot of time in Dublin, in Ireland,
Mhm.
and a lot of time in Portugal. I'm Portuguese.
Oh, sure.
Family's from Portugal, and I've had a lot of blessed opportunities to be able to spend some time out there. It's actually that's like the end. That's the retirement plan. I want to end up back in Portugal. Weather is always beautiful. I mean, of course, when you get into the north of Portugal, man, we get like snow, rain. You get into the mountains, and it could be pretty chilly. But you go to South Portugal, there's a place called Algarve, which is like this little, to me, a little slice of heaven. And there's a town. It's a town called Lille, and it'll on cloudy, rainy days, it'll rain to the east, it'll rain to the west, and there's this patch in Lille that's just always sunny and beautiful. It's really something else. And you're not too far away from from Lisbon. What is it? A 2.5 hour flight, 3 hour flight?
Something like
from
that.
where you are. You definitely got to head over there and enjoy enjoy the beaches during your winter.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, because often like art attracts me places. I've been to, Paris, and, seeing like, the galleries there, but also Amsterdam, and then like I'm trying to think where else. But yeah, you don't need to take too long on a plane if that's where you're going, because it's the continent right there.
And Lisbon is home to some amazing artists that don't, they don't look for the sort of, it's just a very different feel. So they're very talented. You'll ask them, so how come you don't photograph or publicize or talk about it? They're like, I'm not doing it. Every artist I've met in Portugal has always been, I'm not doing it for anybody else but myself. I've always found that super intriguing, super beautiful to see. And there's these old buildings that they've actually, a lot of street artists have taken to. It reminds me a lot of like some of the back alleys of like Amsterdam and stuff. But like they're starting to do that now in Portugal. You see these beautiful murals kind of popping up everywhere. But yeah, you'd really love Lisbon for sure. Are you into old lost styles of like music even? Is that something you're?
I haven't given that too much thought, but no, I'm intrigued by like kind of obscure things, and yeah, no, I'd be curious about that.
There's, if you do, or even if you want to like, but you ever make it out to Lisbon, especially, there's an old style of singing. It's called fado, and it's a folklore music. It's not a lost art. There's still a lot of artists who are, portraying some of the famous fado singers of their time. Amalia Rodriguez is one of them. But it's absolutely, whether you understand it or not, it's very powerful music. You might actually enjoy it.
I'll need to check that out. You need to send me an example of that.
Yeah, sure.
Because your second name, Brandon, is that Carrera?
Yeah. Yeah, Carrera. Which loosely translates to like driver or like courier or driver of fame, which is kind of cool.
I can see that, actually, yeah. Because when you mentioned, I was going to ask before, when you mentioned Portugal, I thought, okay, it's then a Portuguese name, because I was going to guess Spanish, but I prefer to ask, but
yeah. Carrera is kind of a big name in Portugal, or sort of like it's definitely a very Portuguese name, but the way it's spelt makes it more Portuguese, which is EIRA at the end of it, and not just ERA, which is also is like Italian or Spanish and stuff like that. But yeah, for sure, man. Send you over some names. Take a look at it. Yeah. It's different forms of art, man. Doesn't art is art. This folklore music at the beginning, when I discovered it, was through my grandparents, who were a big fan of. They used to go to these little Portuguese social clubs, and they would do these events where these famous fado singers would come from Portugal and sing. That's the first time I ever came across. And at the beginning, I didn't understand what they were talking about, but it's definitely very powerful. Well, we're kind of off topic there, but
I was just thinking, Brandon, about your other name, or maybe, just be vague about it. Like, it could be, people say, where's that name from? Where are you from? Like, well, it could be Spanish, Portuguese, it could be Italian, it could be, I'll just leave it open.
Which is okay as an actor. I mean, actually, really, really funny story. So I would always get put up for roles that were especially Italian. And most people will, usually Portuguese isn't the first thing. It's Spanish or Italian or something like that people will try to guess where I'm from or, what my background is. And there was a McCain's pizza commercial, and they were looking for an Italian, and the line was very much like, being Italian is being Italian. And you had to be really convincing. You kind of got the hands going and stuff like that. And I remember landing that role. And they sent us out to Cuba to film this McCain's pizza commercial. And great time out there for a week. I'll never forget when the commercial aired. My neighbor, who is Italian, very, very like traditional hardcore Italian, runs on over, knocks on my door. He's like, I just saw the commercial. You're not Italian. I know you're Portuguese. Because in the commercial, I'm literally trying to convince people I'm Italian and stuff like that, because it was for a pizza, stuff like that. It's kind of a funny story, but yeah, I would definitely go up for roles being Italian. There was a Avenging Angelo with Sylvester Stallone. In a flashback, I play the main villain, the mobster, but as a child, in a flashback of a story that Sylvester Stallone's character is telling, and he's Italian, and there's even a hint of like sort of like an Italian accent that I'm trying to do in that as well. So
talking about a kind of pain that eats away you and never leaves. I want you to know it.
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, you got to find and make believable what background you can be and go with it. And Italian came up a lot for sure. I didn't mind though. Italians are great people. I'll play an Italian.
Yeah. I wanted to say, I've been Florence in Italy. It was in 2018, so it was before Corona was a thing. Because in Europe, Italy was hit really badly with COVID. So I thought to myself, well, it's good that I was there, because say I wanted to go now, I couldn't back at that time. It was too much of it. The same, because I wanted to go again to Paris, which we were talking about, because I was there in 2013, and I thought, well, I've always wanted to return. And there was a show on in Nanterre in 2020, which was planned before COVID happened. So I thought, fingers crossed it does happen. And it was postponed to 12 months in the future, which I, wasn't, and at that point wasn't able to go. I thought, there's always another time. Yeah, that whole 2-year period, whatever, that was troublesome.
Even, I mean, everything's open now, and I know a lot of people are still hesitant, but I mean, at the end of the day, life's a little short, man. So you get those opportunities, go and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've got some plans, so we'll just see what happens. But could I ask about? We sort of touched on it with interacting, not with the voice cast, but like with stand-ins. For your scenes with the CG characters, were they filmed twice? Because I think I heard that Matt Ficner stood in as the majority of the characters, like depending what was going on. And did you film them twice? Once with Matt Ficner as stand-in and voiceover guy, and then again with nothing there, or was it just the once?
So voiceovers were always done post, anyways. A lot of, for reference, Matt would even spit the lines, or someone off camera would be. It was really cool actually seeing Matt in front of the green screen, and some of the characters for height reference, if you've ever seen the way they'll do that. So they'll put, it's like a backpack or a stick or something really high up with the green ball above it, so that the actors have an eyeline reference and things like that. So it's always really cool to see something, so menial. So, it's just the stick, or maybe like a little, version of a head of something, like a basic version of it. And then later on, see it on camera, and it's this character standing there where nothing was before. For the most part, if the scene was shot opposite one of us, it was shot in real time once with the stand-in and the CGI and the green screen. If we ever went back to shoot twice for that same scene, it was primarily just to get those shots of just the CGI character or reference points and things like that, or with no one there, depending what the scene called for. But no, for the most part, you wouldn't have to go back and shoot it alone, or just on its own, or do it again with the voiceovers and things.
It's like a quirk of like working with, nothing there, where your eye line might be slightly off because it's not really there. You're looking at some, reference point. It's professional pretending, but even then it's tricky because you need something to work from, like look at this dot here, work to that. What is it? It's tricky.
I say luckily for me, there weren't any intense scenes opposite CGI characters that would have required me to do too much imagining. But I give a lot of credit. Tom, even as young actors, Tom and Mark, who had a lot of interactions with the CGI characters, did a really good job at, making you believe that what they were experiencing with the CGI character was real. And it makes it even cooler to imagine when or I know exactly what that scene looked like without the CGI characters, which was, someone just, imagining that they were kind of like swung at, or imagining a lightning bolt was being shot at them. And the actors did a really, really good job at, making you believe it. But ultimately, yeah, when we're shooting scenes like that, you are acting to air.
I do understand, because I'll get the book out again. I'll need to get the page, but I do understand that a lot of those scenes were storyboarded like traditionally. And then, I'll see if I can, here we go. Perfect. Yeah. So I've got a page here, Making Magic. I want to say this font, Brandon, It's what I always call the Ace Lightning font. You can get this in Photoshop. I found it's the
Very cool.
Exoset font, which I've used the Exoset heavy font quite a bit because I thought, what's that? What's that name? What's that called? Because I hadn't seen it in any other show before. But I think with that photo, we've got there's a little model, one of Matt Ficner's maquettes here. Actually, in the top, you got pig face there. Actually,
Yep.
Yeah, Matt's gonna be like, I hadn't seen that before. I'm like, you will soon.
Yeah, I mean, the creators, the producers, graphic designers, everyone did a really good job at bringing the story to life before we even got to set, which is a really hard thing to do. Even some of the most talented filmmakers still muck it up, and you could just tell. You could tell when a film has been shot. It's just not proper planning. I remember with Ace Lightning a few times even being brought in and asked, what my opinion is, where I thought my character arc might go. And just being a kid, I was just too underprepared. I wasn't mature enough. I didn't really understand or, things like that. But I remember they were always thinking ahead like that. And I'm sure that really is what helped bring the story to life and made it so enjoyable and believable. And Matt's a creative genius, man. That guy's such a talented artist.
Completely.
I gotta find, thinking about it, he actually he did caricature drawings on the spot of a bunch of us on set, and I wonder if I could find that, because that would be super cool to see. But yeah, just like with any other production that has CGI involved, there's going to be a good layout, a good storyboard, a lot of planning, a lot of really talented people to bring it to life. And there's no shortage of that with the designers, creative directors, producers. I mean, Jim and Rick, I remember working with them like it was yesterday, and they were, well, obviously, if I remember working with them like it was yesterday, that's the kind of impact they had when they were on set. They're just incredible to work with, super talented.
Yeah, that brings something up. I've got two things. So talking of Rick, Brandon, I have a photo of him here from the time, actually, in the book. Also, there's a behind-the-scenes photo with Tom as Mark. You can see like the lighting and stuff like that. So here's Rick. Here he is.
Yeah, there he is. That's a good photo. I like it.
Yeah, from that time. Yeah. Yep. And then I'll see if I can get this framed up okay. And then that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, there's a good BTS shot right there. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
that was. Where is that? Is that in the pizza? Where is that? Is that the cat?
That's at the school. So he's
is that in the cafe, in the cafeteria?
I think it's in the classroom. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I think so. Sorry if it's a bit too dark.
Okay. I can see it now. Yeah.
Sorry, what I might do in post for this video is I can like scan this in and show you so you can look back.
No, I love it. There's seeing photos like this actually reminds me too. So we shot in schools that were not in use. They were actually relatively close to where I was living at the time. But I remember we even used like the field was the same field that was the school's field, or the school just wasn't in use, and we just taken it over. And I remember walking through these dark hallways and just. Man, yeah, it's really taking me back right now. Actually, that's a memory I haven't had in a long time. I remember in some of the cafeteria scenes or some of the cafe scenes, eating pizza, like we'd have the same slice of pizza in front of us, and we'd try to keep it looking fresh. And I remember a couple times we would just eat way too much of it. Just don't eat and swallow it, man. You got a lot of takes out of you. And I remember I didn't learn that lesson when I was a kid. I ate a little too much pizza.
Johnson, he was making Knives Out in the commentary for that, the scene with Ana de Armas when she's in the the cafe. He's like, if you have an actor and they have to eat in their scene, pity them, because it's you have to do multiple takes. And and in that movie, just a quick tangent, her shtick was if she told a lie, then she would throw up, which gross. But you have to have like the physical comedy. And at one point when she's this is disgusting, but when she's throwing up, it's like a mixture of like apple and like like apple sauce and stuff, and she just had to expel that.
What the shit?
And she wasn't keen, I think, on eating, on having that, like doing that. And Rian Johnson had to demonstrate as if it's your child, tasting it like, see, it's good. You try it. You do it. You can do it. Bear this one in mind. Dad, I'm not going to eat that. You will. Why? Because I've eaten it and it's tasty. It's fine.
That's too funny. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
something that something I wish I had learned a little earlier when eating food on
Yeah,
set.
well, yeah.
Don't swallow all of it.
Yeah. Oh, no. The funny thing is, because I'd heard from Rupert Lazarus, who did the production design on the show the other night, and so that story you told, yeah. So I think the carnival set like in the playing field behind the school, or
That
you know.
that's set too, man. Oh my goodness. I mean, I know it looks, you get snippets of it in the scenes, but they had designed like that carnival existed. We used to walk through at night and like actually have fun. I remember I got a picture of Tom and I were, the game where you swing the sledgehammer and it goes up to the bell,
Yeah.
and where one of us are standing over top of it like this, and he's got the sledgehammer like he's ready to swing it, and the ball is going to hit me basically. But I mean, like we would literally walk around and have fun in this because it was an actual theme park. It felt like, and yeah. So at one point it was designed on the property, just in the back there. Obviously, all the fronts and stuff like that was just plywood held up by two forts behind. But all the design, I mean, the set designers did such an amazing job at texturizing everything and bringing everything to life and making it feel like you were really in this carnival, this rundown carnival.
Yeah, talking of, because there's a bit on the DVD here. There's some there's a little bit of a blooper reel, and it's I think episode 2 where you win the bunnies, and Mark rips the head off of one of them. There's like a bit where you Brandon, you're like messing up your lines, and you did your best, but it's like, yeah, we need to take 2 where it's like, look, I know you're new here, but in America we don't rip the heads off other people's bunnies.
We don't rip the heads off of bunnies.
Oh my goodness, I totally forgot about that too. Wow, yeah. What a flashback. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We did mark that up a couple of times.
I what to say, I have less of a memory for the first 3 episodes of the show than I do the 4 that came after, just because of the VHS that I had, because I have both tapes now just for collecting purposes, but this is a tape that I actually watched, so I remember that. So you probably remember that better than I do, that bit.
I do now.
Yeah, you do now.
There's so many memories on set, but that was definitely one that I had forgotten about, and I'm really happy that you brought it up. Thinking about it too, I mean, lines are one of those things that, as an adult now, just thinking, I mean, sometimes things are just not said the way that you would ever say them, and having to say them and make it believable is really tricky, and that's usually when you end up fumbling over it. But I remember actually, and what ends up happening though is this: you'll mess the line up once, you guys will have a laugh about it. You go to say it again, and now you're tripping yourself up because you're thinking about how you messed it up. So you mess it up again. So you have another laugh. By the time you get to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th take, you're all just laughing, and any little thing will set you off. So it's not that you're messing up the lines anymore. It's just like you just keep triggering each other, because I remember looking across, and he would just smirk because he was remembering and we would just trigger each other and start laughing, waste so many takes doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
We had a few moments on the show like that. There's the scene where we're going over to Tom's house. I don't remember which episode it is, but there's open the door, and it's just standing there. And for some reason, one of us, because the camera wasn't facing, I don't remember if it was me or him, but opened the door and it actually made a silly face purposely to try to like just have some fun.
Yeah.
But that literally set the tone for that scene, because I think we had to do it like 10 or 11 times, because every time that door would open and you saw his face, we would just all start bursting out laughing. Some good times on set for sure.
Yeah, there's talking of weird little moments, there's the Halloween episode where it's another actor that's, sadly not with us any longer, who played Simon, Mark's dad, where you're eating the black pudding. It's supposed to be, and you remember. You like it, and then he says what it's made of, and then you throw it back up. It's just like, whoa.
It's called black pudding. Made of pig's blood.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's so much growing up in Ace Lightning, but still.
There really is, isn't there? That was pretty genuine too. I mean, nowadays I really like blood pudding. Portuguese even have a dish like blood rice and stuff like that. But when you're younger, Yeah, but when you're younger, I think that was probably pretty genuine.
The idea, I've never actually had black pudding, we call it, and they call it that in the show. I've never actually had black pudding myself, I don't think, but the idea of it does sound kind of icky, you know.
Especially with the texture, but you get over it. It tastes pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh dear. Ooh, no, this is so much fun, isn't it?
It is, man. No, I appreciate it. Even just sometimes, it's really just triggering a lot of stuff for me where, you have memories like it happened yesterday, but then you don't realize all the little details, all the little things. So having someone kind of bring it back to me is actually really nice.
Oh, thank you. Could I ask for season 2, kind of talking about like the stand-ins and stuff like that? Did you get to interact with? Well, your character didn't interact too many times with the CG characters in general, so it's tricky, I guess, to ask the question. But do you know if Matt Ficner was standing in for the characters as often in season 2, or was it more just like a mixture of people?
No, for the most part, the stand-in of the characters, it was Matt. It was his creation. They would even have like little models of stuff that would sit on top of the head and things. And I remember him in some of the scenes in the cafeteria and stuff like it was him as the stand-in. I can't remember too many times where it wasn't, but I could be completely wrong too. But I would imagine, especially with someone who he really wanted to bring these characters to life, and he was really involved in every aspect of that,
which is amazing because it's his vision, it's his thing, and I wonder, because he was saying in an interview about how it's kind of a weird gray area for performance for CG characters because nowadays you people in like motion capture suits who are performing for the character there. But it was sort of, he was sort of halfway in between that just by being there. I know you said he had like, stuff on him. So like for height reference and, things of that nature. But no, it's great. It's got that ingenuity.
I mean, and it really offers a different perspective now when you go back and watch the show and you can actually see the emotions or the reactions out of the CGI characters when there was no motion capture. That is literally just the creative mind, and yes, so he would be doing the emotions reactions, but it's not like anyone's watching him or picking that up and then relating it into CGI. You literally had to take nothing and create that, which when I go back and watch some of the episodes, because I know that's some of the stuff that I look at and I'm super appreciative of and kind of offers like a different perspective on the show and a different appreciation for it anyway.
Which I know, like even going back to like Lord of the Rings, for Gollum for the first three, few movies, first 3 movies, it's like I think because Andy Serkis was there in like a like a suit and more so for the reference of the actors, and then I think the mocap performance, again it was in its infancy. What they ended up doing was having him on blue screen, like kind of, I don't want to say doing it in a vacuum, but there was kind of 2 layers to the performance, like him actually being there, which drove it a lot of the time, and then the actual like computer aided thing they were trying. So it's sort of starting to push that line into what we're into now.
Yeah, I think all of it definitely has its place into creating what motion capture is now, 110%. Without all of that, I don't want to say basic, but without that starting point of where CGI was at, and without shows like Ace Lightning and people doing those, I don't think that's where you learned what worked with it. That's where all of it kind of developed from, which again just makes you feel even more privileged for being a part of something like that.
No, it's wonderful. It's so wonderful just to hear from you and how great the experience was, because when you're passionate for a TV show, especially if you're one of the few people that remembers it, at least out of your circle of friends and stuff. It's great that you have the same love for this stuff that I do.
And especially being able to live it just made me love it that much more.
Yeah.
I mean, the experiences on set too. Remember, we're kids, so you're growing up and you're growing up in an environment that was super friendly, fostering. It was a family. We literally became siblings and taking on roles as older brothers and people who were trying to mentor you and guide you. Some stuff stuck, some of it didn't. But working with some great directors on the show, people who were involved in some really great network television series in the UK and BBC, and being able to, like, at the time as a young actor too, not knowing, what kind of actor do you want to be? Do I want to be a character actor? Do I want to do this or do that? Not even really understanding what any of that meant at the time. So having directors trying to actually, had a director who actually felt in a lot of scenes, I was really good at portraying a sort of dry humor, sort of like a British style type humor.
Loosen up the mask, Wayner. I think it's cutting off circulation to your brain.
All right, that's enough, everyone.
With character acting. And I remember actually trying to run with that for a quite long time, and I wouldn't have if I didn't have that experience on set and have that director who actually recognized that and said, look, I recognize it as you. It's a rare talent. Run with that. So, yeah, every experience I had from Ace Lightning was a good one.
No, it's wonderful. It sort of segues into another question that I have, Brandon, where, and we kind of touched on this before in a way. So have you kept in touch with many of the cast from Ace Lightning since the show finished? You mentioned Mark Minardi, whom you've not heard from especially, but no, anybody you did?
There was a lot of actors who actually tried to keep in touch with me, and it was just the other way around. Life gets in the way where I was going through certain things in my life journey that didn't allow me to recognize those relationships and recognize the good that it would have come of it. And I didn't keep in touch. I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of, Mark Minardi's one of them I wish I did keep in touch with 100%, but I haven't really had a lot of contact with anyone that was from the show initially. Sometimes I'll see them pop up on TV shows and stuff like that. I think it's super cool to be like, oh man, good for them. I didn't know they were doing this now, or they're still in film. I also know a lot of us sort of fell out of film. I know Tom is another person who, we were actually really good mates, man. When we were kids, we used to get a lot of shenanigans together, and in Toronto, because he was living in Toronto at the time of filming, and him and I would always go out and explore the city, and did a lot of growing up together. And I always wanted to keep in touch with him. We had this plan. I was going to go over to the UK, and we were going to do some interrailing together, and I fell through on that. That never ended up happening. But yeah, no, never had the opportunity. But I hear everybody's doing great things. I think Tom is married now. She's incredible. Shadia is also married, has children. She's a teacher, I believe. When you hear people, and those are success stories to me. So when you hear that everybody is succeeding in life in that way, that's pretty incredible to hear that. And I'm super happy for all of them.
Oh no, that's amazing. It's really great. So is Shadia, because some of them aren't acting anymore, but I think I did read that Shadia is a teacher now. So she's not acting any longer, no?
No, I don't believe so. I don't want to speak to if she is or isn't, just because I actually don't know like what everybody is doing. But no, I don't believe she is. And I think she's found something that speaks to her and that she's passionate about, and that's what she pursued. Some actors I find, especially in just childhood acting, especially as it's exactly we're children. Some of us have the right guidance or get fostered to continue in the film and go down a path of what people call fame and stardom into adult, and some just is also a way of funding what ends up happening. Like maybe you use that money to pay for schooling, and you find another passion that you're passionate about. And for myself, I sort of had fallen out of the industry. One of the last films I'd worked on was Max Payne, and this incredible opportunity. I was already kind of out of the film industry for a bit, and then this opportunity came up to play opposite Mark Wahlberg in a film that was also really cutting edge and artistically very different for the time, and over a video game that was a cult classic as well. And I remember thinking, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe I am going to stay in film industry. And then after the film wrapped, I remember going to the theater, and I remember taking a bunch of friends with me, a bunch of people, and I didn't know this, but the scene was actually cut. That scene actually never made it into the final edit in the film, and that being a really downer for me, and sort of that was like my exit out of the film industry at that time. So it's just some people can transition from childhood and understanding the maturity level required, some are just mature than others and can transition and maintain in the film industry. Some people just decide it's not what they want to do, and they take the money they made from the film industry and use that to put themselves through school and find that passion. And then others just sort of fall out. I was definitely one of those that just fell out of the film industry and stopped pursuing it. But nonetheless, super blessed and still have all those memories and still have everything on film. So can't take that away from me.
It's fair game though, because thinking of Shadia Simmons, I was watching Goosebumps actually, which of course, Canadian show. She's in that, like she's in one of the earliest episodes of that, and which I think I'd read on IMDb, but I think I knew that, but then I forgot. And then in my rewatch, I was watching, and she's very, very young in it. A lot, I say a lot younger than she was, for when she was on Ace Lightning. But it was again another of those moments, and like, it's Samantha.
My name's Alicia. I'm Samantha, your neighbor.
Yeah.
But she's so small, and she's in the episode barely at all. She was like the baby sister and the, out of the dynamic with the kids. But I think what it is, it might even be because for some people they act when they're very young or younger anyway, and they decide this is where I definitely want to be, or they might decide this is maybe where I don't want to be, at least for a while. So you do what you have to do.
Well, I always have a huge respect when you watch those shows that go on for 12 seasons and you literally watch the kid grow up. That's the environment that they know. Always have a lot of respect for those who, even after that series ends and transition into different roles and can get out of the fact that people only know them as that one role. Always a lot of respect for people who can do that, kids who kind of transition out of that, because not everyone is as successful. Sometimes then they just become known as that and they get pigeonholed too, right? That's all they're known for, and then they want to stay in the film industry and they can't transition or get people to see them as anything else. So that could be a super hard spot to be stuck in as well. So kind of think it's, for myself, it's kind of like a little blessing that I didn't get stuck in a role somewhere as a kid, because I'm a very different person now, and I'm very passionate about the film industry in a very different way, and I'm not stuck as being known as one specific role. So, getting back into the film industry now in the past few months has been really exciting in that regard, because it's a clean slate. It's a fresh start. So I'm really excited about it.
No, it's some amazing news. But do you ever get recognized for your role as Brett from Ace Lightning, or
not in years? Not in years. No. It's been a long time. And the last time I was still a teenager too. So I was a lot closer looking to actually what Brett looked like. I think I was about 15, 16 years old the last time someone had recognized from Ace Lightning. It also stopped airing, like you said, on TV. And if someone's not looking for it now, they're not going to know about it. The one thing I still get known or stopped, and it was such a small role. It was just one episode, but on Degrassi: The Next Generation, just because that actually repeats a lot on television. That episode.
Yeah, I want to say, sorry, I'll let you say that, because with Degrassi, Degrassi: The Next Generation, which Mark Minardi was also on, of course, I don't have a frame of reference for that show. I've never actually seen it. I just know of it, but the DVDs occasionally crop up on eBay, so I'm eyeballing that, or maybe with streaming now, because I do want to watch that show. In an ideal world, I would have seen it by now, and I could ask you about your experience on that. We'll talk about that, but I thought, I'll watch it sometime. But
season 3 and season 4 you'd enjoy a lot for sure.
Oh, fun. But what was Degrassi like? Since we're talking about that, we'll ask just real quick.
I can't even. I wasn't on set enough to even know. Really interesting fun fact though. I'd flown in from Cuba, where I was filming that McCain's Pizza commercial I told you about. Flown in the night before I was supposed to be filming the episode on Degrassi, and that was the first thing where I was filming back to back. So I was like on the heels of something. I felt like things were moving. It felt really cool. I went into it with a lot of energy. But it was actually supposed to be set in a town called Wasaga Beach in Ontario.
Wasaga Beach.
And we actually filmed it in downtown Toronto, the beaches. So it was very, very cool to kind of see them set it up like that. But I don't have a good frame of reference, or I wouldn't be able to really say, hey, what it was like working on that show compared to all the other actors. Because like I said, I was on set for a day. One whole day pretty much is all I was on set for. But again, the experience itself, it was the first time I got to do like some of the more live action, you don't call them stunts, but like I got to ride out on a jet ski. I was out on the water all day. We were at the beach. So it was a lot of fun. It was a humbling experience too, being with a lot of actors who had been on the show for so long and had so much experience, being at that age range or age group and actually being so comfortable on the film, seeing the way that they were on set. It was definitely a big learning experience for me.
Yeah, I wanted to say, talking of stunts, because you're it says like actor, stuntman, and stuff like that on your your credits there, and I was thinking of there's a scene in Looney Tunes Back in Action with Brendan Fraser where he's like, I'm a stuntman. It's like, you a stuntman, please? I am. He's like, you ever seen those mummy movies? I'm in them more than Brendan Fraser is.
Oh yeah, that's too funny, man.
Because he is Brendan Fraser.
Right,
but,
right.
Whenever I see that, I tend to think of that moment.
Yeah, I've had some pretty good experiences. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are martial arts who are working as stunt doubles. We also there's on set, you can also be hired as something called like a special skilled actor or actor with special skills. So where you're kind of doing movements that might be, related to doing a stunt. You might be doing martial arts and stuff, but you still get to act as well. You still have lines. And I had the opportunity to have some roles, where that was the case. I've also been able to, be a stunt double. We did one of the coolest opportunities I had was for Hasbro Toys. It was for Ninja Turtles. Yeah, and I never saw the release. I never saw the commercial released. But basically, there's an older gentleman sitting in a chair, very like grandpa-ish, can barely walk. Gets out of his chair, he's kind of hunched over like this, and then he busts up to a bunch of, I think I did like a spinning heel cook into like a round off, and then a back tuck, and I did a backflip, and then I landed like this superhero pose, and he's supposed to get up and kind of crank his back out again. So I got to double this older gentleman, this actor. But to do it, I had to spend 3 hours in a makeup chair, getting all made up like an old man. They had the bald head wig and even a little bit of like a padded suit because the gentleman's a little bit heavier set. So that's an experience for me when you talk about being able to do stunts on set. That was something that stands out in my mind because it was the first time I actually, had to spend time doing all the latex and the makeup. And I looked like this 70-year-old man. It was also like a glimpse into my future. Like, oh, this is what I'm going to look like when I'm 70. I know exactly and then also having to do those movements. I remember it took me a few takes because, I was able to do some of the stuff with ease without any of the padding on, and then putting the padding on. It was the first time I had to do it. And it was actually really hard. It was exhausting. It was tough. And I remember thinking, man, these actors that, get made up in a chair for 8 hours in some of these films and they're doing these stunts, man, totally different respect when I'm watching films like that now because I know exactly what they go through. Mm-hmm. After that, I got into some precision driving, and that was kind of cool because I've been able to actually travel and being able to do like motorcycle stunts and car stunts and things like that. And that's really, I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So when I had those opportunities, when being a stuntman led into those opportunities, I was like a kid in a candy store, man. I was like, yeah, give me more. Let's do this. Where's that car? let me drive it into a wall, flip it over upside down. Let's do this.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing ever. This is exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh no, it's just so wonderful, isn't it? But Brandon, do you remember the camping episode out in the country, the Not So Great Outdoors? Fantastic title. So do you remember what it was like filming that one, or where was that shot? Can you remember?
Oh man, you could probably tell me more than I could.
I don't know if I can. Obviously, the show was shot in Toronto, at least the first season. I think the second season was in Whitby. Matt Ficner was saying, at least from memory, but the bulk of the show was like the same sort of locations, but it's all like it's a bottle episode out in the country. I'm sure it's not that far, but it's like not in the same place as normal.
I think everything was like within 45 minutes of Toronto, though, which would offer just like more of that camping environment or outdoor feel, but without actually being in the middle of nowhere. I remember it was not in the middle of nowhere. It was more like a park. And I remember it being really cold. And I wish I could give you more than that, but man, that's one of those things. You were telling me, and I remember searching my brain going, man, what can I tell them about this episode? I just remember it being really cold. I also remember at the end of the night wrapping up, like just feeling, I was really quiet, really peaceful. And I remember thinking like, I didn't actually want to go home. I remember thinking, be like, I kind of want to camp out here. We were in the middle of a park, but can't do it. But I mean, it's just the ambiance they set. And, we had like a little campfire going on and stuff like that. But no, I wish I could tell you more. I have no idea. I'm going to say it was cold.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'll tell you what, it certainly looked that way because there's a part where the way it's shot, they disguised it pretty well, but you look like to the right, you're like, yeah, civilization's right around the corner. Or there's moments like at the carnival, there's like the carnival, there's like trees, at the side, and you can sort of see the school in the background. Unless you're looking for it, you don't see this.
You don't see it, but it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looked cold. And there's some bits where it looks like it's the back of Beyond, as we say. But no, some good production or some good TV making there.
Oh, 100%. I mean, set and location was definitely on point, and they found some great spots that were close by, but we didn't actually have to go too far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's a question, and you might be a good person to ask this. You might not. I'll just go for it. So Ace Lightning was filmed in Canada, but set in America. Do you know why productions work like this? Obviously, I understand about like cost saving, but why, generally speaking, is something filmed in Canada not also set in Canada? because I can't think of many shows or movies that are filmed there and also set there. I'm sure there are. I just don't know. I can't think.
No, I mean, so you mentioned it. I mean, obviously it's filmed in Canada because Canada does have some amazing locations. We also there's great tax breaks and incentives for productions to come here. We also have some incredible production companies and casting directors who, work very closely with productions and have a really good eye for talent and can really produce and hire great talent pretty quickly. But the number one reason I really firmly believe why the productions, it's like it's filmed in Canada, but it's never set in Canada. Like you said, it's always set in the U.S. somewhere. I mean, the U.S., and especially with British shows, you see it happen a lot of times, or things that are heard on BBC. And my understanding is it's just the American market is larger. It's vastly larger. There's so many more frames of reference and reference points. You really think about it. Like if you watch a film that's supposed to be set in Canada and we drove by, for the most part, you drove by the CN Tower. It's not like, driving by the Eiffel Tower or driving, oh, that's a bad reference, that's Paris. But
one is, I was watching Lost actually, and I think I'm not actually sure where that's filmed. It's supposed to be like the characters all start in Sydney in Australia. And I think there's like one episode where you see like a landmark so as to denote that, but then otherwise you can get away with filming elsewhere.
100%. There are landmarks that are just more, we'll even make it a point to make it look like that landmark if it's in Toronto or shot somewhere else, or, just when let's say it's New York City, like a dingy alleyway, it's people just going to automatically, whether it's an alleyway in Toronto, but if you set that tone that makes it feel like New York, people are just going to go, oh, that's New York, or that's America. No one's ever going to go, oh, that's Toronto. Maybe nowadays more so because it is becoming more of a pop culture sort of location. Ultimately, I just strongly believe it's, the American market's just that much larger. I'm probably wrong. I don't know. But that's what I would say.
It's probably, it probably plays, oh no, I'm sure it really does play into it for sure. But I wonder to myself, if anyone ever, complains about representation or like a lack
100%.
there. Like, how about us, eh? We're doing a Canadian thing.
Yeah. But there's so many more, nowadays too, especially with the film industry being what it is in Canada and how busy we are, it is, I see a shift. And there's so many more productions and film festivals that cater to films that are representing where they're shot, not just in Canada, but even just more, films popping up in, just in Europe too, in Paris and the film festival out there and what that's done. And just so many more of these films that weren't so widely accepted 20, 25 years ago because they weren't, your typical, Hollywood film. I think that question probably isn't as relevant nowadays because you do see it a lot more, man. When we watch films these days and shows these days, Chicago is Chicago. If it's wherever it is they seem to be representing more for whatever reason that is. But definitely 20 years ago when this show came out, the show would do better if it seemed like it was in America because it was more relatable, right?
Yeah.
Here in America, we respect authority. Sort of.
I wonder if, because I know this show came directly from Rick Siggelkow. He was, talking about like the superhero genre, which is like a big part of his thinking. And also, I wonder if Rick likes to have like teenage romance and stuff like that in some of his kid shows, that are for kids, obviously for older kids and stuff. Because I've not seen it for a while, but after Ace Lightning, he did a show called DinoSapien. I don't know if you ever got that. Yeah,
never got to see it. I've heard of it. No.
So I have the DVD. I haven't watched it since I saw it on the TV. But unlike Ace, DinoSapien, it was like the BBC and Discovery Kids, co-production. And I think they filmed out in the Canadian Rockies for that one. And
that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's like a 15-episode show, and it got a lot more exposure. So I think it's sort of obscure in the same way as Ace, as of like the physical media releases. But because it was played on TV more, I think people have a better idea of what that one was. And there's obviously like the international market, of course. But it's Rick's vision, both cases. But I wonder if the BBC were also thinking we have to be cool and in the now and have like an international thing, Obviously, like the leading actor Tom Wanzi is English, so it's like sort of represents some of the ideas they wanted to have in the show, and just try and probably just like be competitive and have a show that kind of reaches that broad spectrum.
100%. 100%. I would agree with you.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about R.D. Reid, but what was it like working with Philip Williams? You remember?
Oh, man, again, I was just too young. There's certain people I don't have any lasting, knowing that I worked with them is kind of, I have more of a lasting impression now and an appreciation now than I did back then. Half of them I didn't even know who I was working with. I just didn't understand it. I didn't, being that young. R.D. Reid I knew, and I could appreciate it. And I had my mother at the time to tell me, like, you know who you're working with. But I think it's later on in life that I actually realized it.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, because Reid is obviously a Scottish name, but I think he's from Toronto. Yeah, he
was. Yeah, I believe. I don't know his full history. I don't know if he's born in Toronto, but I know he was definitely. He was a Torontonian for sure.
Yeah, he did put on a good Scottish accent when he was playing this character, the Radioactive Guy, which is some urban legend I think made up for the show. I want to know who invented that name. It's great. Yeah, Dr. Cornelius Fowler or whatever his name was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
See, this is stuck in my head. It's like, Cornelius, we just want to help you.
Cornelius, we just want to help you.
You can't come in. No one can ever come in again. I'm Reid.
You can't come in. No one can ever come in again. I'm radioactive.
I love it. I love it. That's really good, man. I love it.
Yeah. I think you've got to say, can he come in? It's not. Cannot.
I think they need to do a reunion episode, and we're going to bring you in to do the voices. I think that's what needs to happen.
Oh, yeah, I did my impression of the puppets for Googler's character for Zip and Snip for Matt Ficner. I don't know if I can muster that. I mean, maybe if we have a moment at the very end.
Yeah,
but,
sounds good.
No worries. But yeah, talking of which, because I know you were quite young at the time. Like, I wanted to ask about Diane Douglass, who played Mrs. Kutcher, who was also in Goosebumps for one episode. And again, rewatching that, like, it's Mrs. Kutcher.
Oh, please, call me Nettie.
Carl loves bacon. Carl!
All right, I think I looked her up on IMDb because you think, well, these are some great talents. What have they done? But do you remember working with her in the cafeteria?
I wish. I mean, I remember her. What I remember in those cafeteria scenes with her was feeling like she was everyone's mom. She was super supportive, really, really fun to be around, super cool, and really embodied that character, man. Like, bring on the Boston, bring on the again, another really talented character actor who I wish I've seen more of, just ton of talent. I feel like that's sort of all this talent that never really seems to get the recognition that it deserves in Canada, for sure.
No, she really brought, like that flamboyant, kind of a pantomime almost sort of a thing to it. Don't you come back for seconds.
Trust me, don't you come back for seconds.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it really brought a humor. It really brought a humor to it, though, too. Right.
Yeah, I have my pig face action figure here. She was faced with this guy,
right?
With pig face.
Yeah,
and
look at that.
Obviously, obviously reacted with sheer terror at this freaky dude. But was just sort of like, you get out of my kitchen, you brute.
You get out of my kitchen, you brute! Go!
Too funny.
Yeah.
No, I really want to go back now and watch these episodes.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. I'll get you the link, or I'll link it below, in the description for this video. But also I'll show you the other toys quick. So we have Ace.
Let me see
here.
Yep, I love it. Look at that.
So I think he had like little projectiles for his wrist cannons that he had because the way he's built. But
and the thing I love about this era of action figures, like, just, I don't know, the colors to me, they feel like I feel like I'm looking at that era of a comic book still. They're not too bubbly, not too bright and flashy. I don't know. I really love this era of action figures. It's super cool.
I think it's also just like the cyberpunk kind of feel to yeah. More so him, because Kilobyte had a little bit of that look slightly, maybe because he was human, and so it's like an even match in a way, for the protagonists. And also Rat we have here.
Oh man, I loved Rat. That's one of my favorite characters.
Dirty Rat is his name, like, you dirty rat.
See ya! Come back here, you dirty rat!
So cool. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he flaps his wings.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But hey, Ace, we didn't mean no harm. We was just, playing around.
We was just playing around.
We was just, like, playing around.
Okay, let's have some real fun.
Maybe we'll do stop motion, like we'll do with the reunion instead of doing the CGI. Just do it with the action figures. Kind of.
Yeah. There is a Lord Fear toy, although it's
let me see that one.
And he's usually like broken up. I've seen like photos of the character, but yeah, I had the idea for Rat to have just like a green glove or something, and just chroma key that out, and just have the wing flapping going on. So do you remember what it was like working with Jordan Hughes, who played Wayne? Because I don't know if Jordan's acting anymore. Is he?
No, I don't know. Another gentleman I never kept in touch with, man. He was also from Toronto. We used to actually ride in, so we had a pickup service, a car pickup service that picked us up every morning, drove us to location. And he was always one of the first ones picked up before me. So we used to have a good laugh in the car on the way in and on the way out. I hope he's doing well. I have no idea actually what he got up to after the show. But definitely having, that character type was very, that was very cliche, very much like what you needed in a show like that. That kind of a bully, and he did such a good job. He was such a nice guy, man, but he definitely had a little bit of that in him for sure, and was able to really bring that out on screen and make it very believable, that he was that school bully. But
yeah. Where you don't have to act too hard. It's sort of
it came natural.
Naturally, but you know what to tap on. It's like, okay, this, that, the other.
I don't want any trouble.
Then butt out. What a wuss.
What? I'll pound you, you loser.
You're toast, barf boy.
He definitely, like you would definitely think, I wonder if he's actually a bully in real life, and he wasn't. He wasn't at all, but he was just that believable.
There's some actors like who they play that character, but that's not what they're like, and then cut camera. It's like, I'm so sorry, I had to say that or do that. It's like, no, it's fine, we're pretending. Some of the actors obviously, they've had careers like after this. Like Megan Park, who was. In the show, a little bit, and Brooke D'Orsay, and also Ashley Leggat. Ashley Leggat, excuse me, Leggat. Sorry, because it sounds kind of French, so
It sounds much poshier when you say it like that, though. Leggat. I think she should. I think if she's gonna change her name, it should definitely be that. I love it.
Maybe not. Oh dear. Obviously, like Brooke D'Orsay and Ashley Leggat, we're in Season 2. Sorry guys, the sound got cut here and it froze. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, what was the experience working with Ashley Leggat and Brooke D'Orsay? Brooke wasn't in the show too much, but
I mean, they really brought that whole family vibe together. I remember Ashley Leggat and all of us with Tom, and we would all hang out afterwards. And I remember we even had like a house party at my house. I remember when my parents left. And it was me, Tom, Ashley, and Mark. Just having going through those experiences as a kid when you're growing up and you're maturing and figuring stuff out, and having all those different types of personalities definitely it makes growing up that much more enjoyable. Everyone brought something different to the table and really kind of completed that family feeling. I've never kept in touch with any of them to this day. So, I know that they're still super successful, and I know that they are still acting, and I'm really happy for them. I had the opportunity to work on a show called 11 Cameras, CBC show, and that Ashley Leggat was in that. And I remember I hadn't seen her in years after Ace Lightning ended, and then I just ran into her on set there, which was really cool. But again, it's just they helped kind of complete that family atmosphere, and I'm super thankful for it.
No, it's some wonderful stuff. I'll say I've got one question left, but obviously some amazing information you just told me. But yeah, I think with Rick Siggelkow like producing the shows, I wonder if like teenage romance is something he likes to have in his shows where possible, because he said like it's funny kind of looking back, because oh, teenage romance, and you kind of roll your eyes. This is a quote from Rick, but when you're a teenager and you're in love, it's serious business. Like this is important.
I feel like yeah, that's definitely, I can feel Rick saying that, and I can hear him and see him in front of me right now, which is cool. It is though, and of course, being on set when you're still young as well, there was that sort of sense of, it wasn't just teenage romance on film either. I think all of us, like I remember having a crush on a couple of the actors that I was working next to, but you're spending every day with them and you're younger, you don't really know what that means. And yeah, it is serious business. And it also added to, I think, maybe even would have come out on film a little bit and would have added to that whole experience a bit.
It was just one of those sudden things,
That's cool. Whatever.
Yes.
And, I don't know if any of the other actors had the same experience, but for me, yeah, 100%. I remember I had a little crush. And I remember what that felt like. And any kid watching the show is going to be able to relate to that, because we've all been there. It's a must in every teenage show or every kid show. There has to be that teenage romance, man. Otherwise, it just doesn't complete the story.
Yeah, that what you're describing, yeah, that was the impact it had for me.
And all the good advice he collected through the years completely disappeared.
Yeah, that was
cool.
Yeah, because you can relate to it. Obviously, I was a little bit younger. I'm 26 now, so I would have been like 2002. I would have been 5 or something. That, so I didn't really see it like too much on the TV, but when the home media came out, I rewatched that over and over. But you pick up on that, so even these characters who are a little older than you, like you grow up a bit, you can relate to it. And then I think
100%.
season 2 they kind of grew it up still further, because you'd all aged a little bit, so it's like, well, we'll write the story to work with that. And I do feel, Brandon, that your character did really grow a lot, in season 2. Like, I love Brett in season 2, like because he's sort of being messed around by Heather, by Petra's character. And it's like,
it was super fun, because I think also the character, and in real life, when you're that age, you're trying to figure out who you are and where you're, what the boundaries are and how things work in a relationship. So having that sort of fun, kind of being bossed around by her, and just, because I was really happy to be her boyfriend, but at the same time, trying to still portray to my friends, like, no, I'm the man in the relationship, and then I'm coming.
Yeah.
Brett, let's go.
Coming.
That sort of stuff.
It's sort of like that. Did I say you could talk?
Did I say you could talk?
Heather. And,
right.
Stuff like this.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun actually filming those scenes. We're a little bit older in season 2.
Yeah. So while season 3 of the show was not made, sadly, do you know what direction your character might have taken in it? Because I know you talked about, they asked you questions about what your thoughts were on the whole thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I just wasn't. I remember sitting down with Rick too, and he asked me that question. I'll never forget this. And you have those moments in life where you look back at stuff and you're like, oh man, I should have said this, or should have done that, or I had this idea and I didn't say it. Things like that. And I remember being a kid in that position, and I wasn't that sure of myself, and I think I wasn't even sure what kind of an actor I wanted to be. Wasn't even sure what I was doing in life, even though I was working on this show. And that really came through in my interactions with people like Rick. I'm sure it did. Even though I was 13 at the time, you are expected to have a level of maturity and understanding of what you're doing and be able to answer questions like that. And I remember I completely fumbled that interview with him. I wouldn't say interview, it wasn't an interview, but I remember he was getting everybody's input. He was getting everybody's feedback, right? I think they were messing around with storylines and starting to think ahead of season 3, and they wanted to see what everybody's opinion was. Like, what did they want to see? What did you want to be doing in your character? And I didn't have good answers for him. I remember that clearly. Like, I remember just, not even being sure and be like, oh, you tell me, sort of thing. So I don't know where Brett would have gone. I would have been really cool to see the relationship maybe become more friendly with Tom's character with Mark and actually become a lightning knight. I think that would have been a cool way to kind of tie off where all of his friends are sort of fighting alongside of him, and see that develop a little bit. But I don't know if that would have worked with the storyline. But if you ask me now, that's something I would have liked to see. It would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think because your character obviously knew the video game and played it.
Oh, yeah. So you play?
Know what my boyfriend does. What do you know about Ace Lightning and the Carnival of Doom? Is it hard to play?
It's not the easiest. It's got some pretty cool features.
I was thinking to myself, not so much what would I have wanted to see. I would have wanted to see, you guys all work together against the video game, bad guys. But I guess it's just like, logically, where can you go? And also because even still, you were obviously still growing up. I think they wanted to, they could have even aged up the show even more. Because like you went to high school and you could have gone further through high school or something like that. And I know they wanted to add in new characters, and because they were working on storylines already, some of which I've heard about, where it could have gone potentially, but that's a what if.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think ultimately maybe, obviously that's where I wanted to go, but thinking about it, if it did go that way, you wouldn't have that sort of character relief in certain scenes where it's like, I'm the one guy doesn't really know what's going on. And that kind of could add sort of a value or a comedic relief even in certain parts, or just like where you, the viewer, know what's going on and this character doesn't. And I think that kind of breaks things up.
What was that?
Such a wimp.
What was that? It's a long, crazy story.
And that's probably why that wouldn't happen. What would be super, super cool if they ever thought to bring back Ace Lightning now, though, would be kind of would be fun of all of us growing up and our kids are back in school and seeing our kids go through those. Or Tom has children and he's back in America and his kids are going to the school and they dig up the video game, kind of like a Jumanji style. The game sort of gets woken awake again, and his kids are going through it, and we're all adults, But
yeah,
really cool.
I think you'd have to reboot it because obviously season 2 was left on a cliffhanger and they promised
it wouldn't make
more.
Any sense. But a reboot would be super fun.
Yeah. Stranger things have happened, according to Matt Ficner. I was asking him what his thoughts would have been on a revival of some kind, and that was his response. Like, who knows?
It's true though, and nowadays with motion capture and tech and where the film industry is, I think the show would be a lot of fun, man. It would be something that a lot of people would watch and really enjoy.
Yeah. Do you know, Brandon, talking of Tom Wanzi was staying in Toronto, was Devon Anderson staying there as well? Because I think you only met him as a character, like in the show. I mean, he was in one episode, like one full episode, but he was in like the opening tag of every one. Apart from that,
Morning.
Was he staying in Toronto or staying in Toronto much?
I'm not sure. Not 100%. We didn't really have a lot of time with him.
No, it's okay because I think his bits were filmed. I was looking at the gag reel. And I think his bits were filmed, in like probably a separate room, to the house Mark was in or something. So they had him for that. But it's like we could film this like relatively quickly because it's just a small role and like one full episode. And then you're out. And then season 2 kind of has that same, arc going on a little bit. Where he's in like the opening scene with Tom, and then it's just him on video call, kind of like we are now, for the rest of the show. Hi folks, sorry for the abrupt end to part 1 there. So the Zoom recordings that were made, this is where they stop for this session. After this part is where Brandon and I bid our goodbyes, although this footage wasn't recorded and didn't download, sadly. However, it creates the perfect midpoint to what is now a 2-part interview. We recorded part 1 on January 31st this year, and what became part 2 was recorded on February 21st, or Pancake Day, at least in the UK.
I didn't know that was an actual thing. Pancake Day? Is that what we're meeting on?
I have my pancake, have the last pancake right here, actually.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
So a bit of a break there. But anyway, to save us just saying goodbye again, I came up with bonus material to discuss with Brandon, and oh boy have we got a good video in store for you folks as a result. Tune in next time to the channel to see the second part of the interview with Brandon Carrera and myself. Take care folks, and feel free to like, share and subscribe to the channel, hitting the notification bell for when the video goes live. Thanks again for watching everyone.